What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Trillville here, and we are back with another live stream. And on today's live stream, we are getting straight into some Star Citizen news. It is something new that I'm doing. I don't know why I'm in this tab. Hold on, guys. Yeah, it's something new that I'm doing. Getting back into it's new slash old. I used to do game news a lot. I'm going to focus the scope around Star Citizen for right now until the news gets a little slow, which inevitably it will. So for right now, we're going to go ahead and just do a little bit of Star Citizen news due to it having an influx of some news coming in. And also, we're going to go ahead and probably react to a Salty Mike video tonight. I'm trying not to make it run too late tonight due to me having to go to work tomorrow, even though it's a very light day of work tomorrow. Still going to try to get some sleep. So probably won't be up until 2, 3 in the morning like I was the last 2 nights, but we will do a very extensive stream tonight as far as extensive goes. We're going to react to that board or that Star Citizen Q&A, definitely. And then after, if we have a little time, we might do the Salty Mike. If not, look forward to that tomorrow. Make sure you guys hit that like, that comment, that subscribe on YouTube when you see my videos, because that helps me out in the algorithm a lot. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy this half as much as I enjoy making it for you. We're going to get straight into the content today. So yeah, make sure you guys, let me know how you like it. If you got something to say, let me know. Don't keep your mouth shut. And yeah, let's do this shit. So this was recorded 2 days ago.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special pre-taped edition of Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee.
Yeah, they're pre-taped this year. Apparently last year they were live, where you can actually go and interact and, be with the community. But this year they're going with the pre-recorded. I don't understand why. I wasn't there for last year, so I'm not going to really oppose it. But I guess it still hits the same. And it's a Q&A, so I don't really know how this is going to work unless it was pre-selected questions. I mean, that's kind of how it has to work, but yeah, let's do it.
I assume that you've seen Star Citizen Live before in a rare first-time thing, so I'm not going to explain what the show is. Should I explain what the show is? I can't change my format. I have to explain what the show is. It's where we take about 30 minutes out of our time to sit down with one of our CIG developers and make them answer questions from you, the Star Citizen community. In this case, our wonderful Chinese community. Somebody, I didn't get the name, sent us a massive, wonderful list of questions covering a huge variety of topics. Obviously, it's while we're hard at work getting the next release of Star Citizen out, working towards the closing of Squadron 42. Whatnot.
Which I'm very excited for. Now that got the community a little bit split because, all right, so Squadron 42 was an afterthought that became the main thought, and now it's boiling up with the fans a little bit because they're waiting for actual content that is already produced and already working in Squadron 42, but has not even been remotely tried to be implemented in the PU. Which is a kind of a problem because it's holding, like, this whole little Squadron 42 Star Citizen thing is kind of holding it back from actually releasing.
Can't pull a whole bunch of people necessary to get that full breadth of questions that you guys sent out. We were able to snag longtime friend and human meat puppet vehicle director John Crew on the show. John, say hi.
Hello, human meat puppet here.
Human meat puppet here.
He didn't like that.
Answer your questions related to
he didn't like that at all.
And stuff. So with that, we're going to jump right in because I imagine there's a bunch of people sitting in a big convention hall and everything. Probably don't got the most comfortable chairs and like, all right, Jared, just get to it.
Mm-hmm.
What if we told a story right now? Would that be? No, okay, we'll get right to it.
No.
So, vehicle gameplay questions from the Chinese community.
My bad, guys. I have to get a drink real fast. I'll be right back. Alright, guys, I'm back with my drink. Sorry about that little detour. Sorry about that. And yeah, let's do this shit. Yeah, my bad.
With John Crew. In questions in no particular order. Right off the bat, will there be more types of ground vehicles?
Yes. There's obviously
Thank God, because sorry I keep interrupting the video like that, but I want to make sure that it's fair use. One, and two, I have some input. But thank God, because I'm getting tired of the fucking tire-based vehicles when it comes to these off-terrain now maps. Now, when they come out with some maps that have been civilized a little bit more, especially in Stanton, and some roads been paved and stuff like that, or at least gravelized or charted out, you know, that's when the tire vehicles could be really useful. But as it goes right now, any vehicle with tires is a death trap as soon as you start traveling a little bit off the beaten path. Now, when you're driving hover vehicles, they're also death traps, but they're death traps in another way because you never know what you're going to die on. You could die on a rock, and you can bounce right off a rock. You never know. But hopefully they both tune the existing ground vehicles and come out with more, because the newest ground vehicle that they came out, the Gray Cat, I had the pleasure of using it, and it was, if you have a Polaris, just use the Polaris. It's not really for anything. Like, I can see if they made the size a little smaller to fit in medium-sized vehicles, it would be useful. But right now, it's just another version of the Ursa that's less useful, essentially.
do have a range of ground vehicles at the moment, but they're pretty much a select few manufacturers and either wheeled tank tracks and a couple of hover ones, but they don't really cover the full range. Like I know you've had Alberto on SCL in the past doing like
The chopper.
the chopper and like the Origin hover tank. And I'm not going to say which ones we want to do, but we do want to do more in the sort of gaps we have, like let's say combat hover vehicles rather than transport ones.
That'd be nice.
I feel like we've been doing this for 10 years now. I feel like at some point you and I have had casual conversations about some kind of like mobile base that kind of hovers around, like a floating platform with doors and rooms and stuff like that. Something more akin to a ship's to a proper ship size, like a Cutlass size or a Freelancer size, but ground and hovering. You know, so
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm
I
thinking.
always remember, I grew up with G.I. Joe and stuff, and those mobile base things, like the Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder would be a great name, by the way, especially if it hovers, would just really confuse people. Something like that. I think there's a lot of room for that kind of thing.
It's definitely something we've talked about and looked at in the past. We have obviously ground vehicle garages and we have ship hangars, and the slight problem that has always somewhat interfered with that plan of a larger ground vehicle is our ground vehicle garages aren't big enough. Our ship hangars are, but not necessarily every ship hangar you can hover or drive a vehicle out of.
Not the ones with the
Especially the ones with the ceiling exits. So it's coming up with a solution to that, and then we could have maybe not.
I have a solution for it. Make that drone bay its own vehicle bay that's big enough to bring up size 1 and 2 vehicles. Size 3 vehicles would have to be picked up from a garage that is special, like a special garage, a part of the station. So what you would do is you would fly and port your ship. Like if you have a bigger ship, because these vehicles are going to fit on bigger ships, you're going to port your ship towards the cargo area, or you're going to pull into the cargo area. And then when you pull into the cargo area, you can call your big ass shit. Like it's extra large vehicles. You know what I'm saying? The big ass vehicles. That's when you can call the huge ass Nova tanks and stuff like that. If it all fits inside of the medium hangar, I mean, why not just do it like that? But I think that little drone space that they got there, if they made that a vehicle, like hangar type, elevator type deal, I feel like that would be a huge boost to quality of life, because it would take essentially 45 to an hour off of your journey of trying to figure out how to put that shit in your vehicle. And then it takes a hell of a lot of time less calling multiple vehicles from your hangar, which is a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. I was just complaining about that yesterday.
I always forget the film with the big roving cities.
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines. I'm not gonna say that big, but
Probably not.
probably not that big.
But we've both been here long enough. Never to say never ever. Plus,
Ever.
I think if we're being real candid and honest, I think we need more gameplay systems that utilize ground vehicle technologies. There's a couple. I was just had a meeting with Rick Porter, design director for the PU. Last week, where I wanted to pitch, like, if we get, when weather comes online and stuff, being able to keep ships out, but having like giant Sturgis style hog wild kind of events that require hundreds of ground vehicles in place and stuff would be super cool. And that's just casual.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, what I want to see in this game is like community-based battles, like this last one that they just put out, the Hunt the Polaris mission. The reason why I want to see more missions like that is because it makes the community interact. You start building relationships with the different people around you in that certain battle, and then you can, move on from there like you would in real life with the people that you meet in battle. So that way you're not dependent on meeting people on a third-party website or a third-party way through Twitch or whatever. You're more so a tight-knit community within each other. That puts more use for those big ships and stuff like that, because AI blades are going to be okay, but I feel like they're going to be wonky as the game itself. At this point, Star Citizen's bugs are a part of the game, and it is what it is.
Conversation between me and the design director. It's not a commitment to an idea, but it's just I think there's a lot more we can do to incentivize the use of ground vehicles.
Yeah, we have a lot of ground vehicles at the moment, but there isn't a lot of use, and the use they have sometimes is not ideal.
Yeah. So when we can incentivize that use more, then I think it'll be a natural kind of progression. Yeah, let's find out what other kind of ground vehicles we can add to this. Like that. All right. How do you design ship living quarters? What equipment and features are essential for gold standard?
I'm kind of interested in how he's about to answer answer this. Hold on, I had to cough. Damn. The reason why I have an interest on why he's going to answer this is because who the fuck designed the Redeemer? Whoever designed the Redeemer, fire their asses. Because why is the living quarters near the off-ramp and the docking or the preparation quarters is above the actual living quarters? Like, you have to climb a ladder to get to the top of it, and then when you're at the top of it, that's your actual battle zone ready, your battle ready zone. And then when you go to the bottom of the ship where the offboarding ramp is, it's all living quarters with an onboard fridge and all of that shit. So I don't understand why they did that. Like, it really makes no sense to me.
So in terms of gold standard, living quarters really depends on the role of the ship. Obviously, some ships don't have living quarters, and that really is a soft gate for how far and long you can use that ship. If you don't have living quarters, eventually food, drink, hygiene, and I guess tiredness sort of become your limiting factors. So if you want a ship to go a long distance, you need living quarters. And then they come in different scales. We have the bare bones one with beds that currently let you log in and out. Beyond that, if you have food, you need somewhere to get rid of the food when it's being processed. So they all have toilets or showers. And then for the more grandiose and luxurious ships, you go from, here's a bunk bed with a food machine in the wall, and you sit and eat your food, or stand and eat your food, to you have a room which has a seat, bed, toilet. Military ships follow real world military ships, and that everyone doesn't have their own quarters. You have bunk rooms with shared mess and galley.
Yeah, I mean, it's common sense, and that's how I would like it to work in the future, because then if you buy a ship, so like the 600i, for example, if you buy a 600i now, when you do long voyages and you want to do like multiple missions instead of one or two and come back to the base, if you want to do multiple missions, now you can do long voyages, get incapacitated, wake up in your star fleet, and then go ahead and get your ship back from planet with your SRV or SUV or they call that thing, your tow truck, your space tow truck. Bring your shit back over to your capital ship like an Idris. Put it inside the fucking bitch. Take it to another hangar. Drive it over to a place where you can get it fixed and call it a day. You know, like it's a bunch of things that you could do with this, and like I'm honestly very excited for it. Like the ships that they do have available with food in it and stuff like that, and beds and quarters and stuff. I feel like it'll really be very useful when you can actually leave your stuff in a ship without it worrying about it going anywhere. And also being able to interact with the food and water devices in the fucking ship.
All the way up to luxury ships like the 890, where everyone has essentially their own apartment with everything in it. So it really depends on the role of the ship and the type of the ship. And it's got to have a bed. If it has food, it's got to have toilets. If it's a toilet, it's got to have a shower there as well.
And this is all in preparation for gameplay systems
Yes.
that'll come online.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna make a poop and pee system. Like if you drink too much, you're gonna have to take a piss. Like if you're in a mission and you forgot to take a piss, your guy's gonna piss himself, and then you're gonna have soiled clothes, and then you gotta go back to your base or to your ship and change your suit out because now you're walking around in shit, and then it's gonna make your fucking guy's fucking attitude all shitty, and then yeah, I can see that playing out.
At the moment, they're very much role play things, and we spend a lot of time internally arguing about toilets and showers.
We're not going to put a when on this, but
Yeah.
if by the time your time here is done and my time here is done, if we don't have poop gameplay, I'm going to be...
Yeah. There'll be one other director who will be very upset about that as well if we don't have that.
This is the face of somebody who wants poop gameplay. And Chris, if you're
I kind of want it to. I'm not gonna lie. The first thing I seen when I seen the bathrooms and the utilities inside of the ships, I was like, if they put this in the game, and it's interactable, best believe you're gonna be taking a dookie in one of these toilets, and it'll be one of the first games to where you actually have to take a shit.
sorry.
I wonder, depending on how much food, the length of the poop. Like that'll be pretty cool.
On the other side of this, single-seat fighters,
Yeah.
who obviously don't have living quarters or anything, will single-seat fighters and similar ships allow for in-cockpit eating and drinking? This is, I love seeing this question right now because there's this, this thing that happens where, you're running, you're getting your ship, you're having to take off to clear an LZ or whatever, and you didn't get a chance to stop and top up your vitals beforehand. And there's nothing worse than, you're flying in your Avenger or whatever, and you die of thirst.
Dying of thirst, yeah.
Because you can't pop a cerveza.
Don't drink and fly.
Yeah. Well. So, will single-seat fighters and similar ships allow cockpit drinking and eating?
That'd be nice.
For me personally, yes, that is something I want.
That'd be
Ultimately,
nice.
That is not my area of responsibility. It's more of a overall game.
Where you're just
thing.
flying and you just see your guy going like that. And then next thing you know, he drops it in there, and then you got a bunch of trash building up inside your fucking cockpit.
Are there plans for more
You get out the fucking cockpit and a bunch of fucking bottles fall out of it.
We're
That'd be
seeing
fun.
in the FPS weapons, the Volt weapons, which we talked about for a while, are finally making their journey from Squadron to the PU. Are there additional ship weapon types that are percolating in someone's head here?
There are a couple that, if I get my dates right, people will be seeing very soon in game. Again, things trickling from Squadron into Star Citizen. Beyond that, we haven't really looked into new weapon types.
And a lot of people's problem is that is the issue, or is the case. Like, it should be the other way around. Like, Star Citizen should be trickling into Squadron 42 because they didn't get the project backing for Squadron 42. They got the project backing for Star Citizen.
It's more expanding the range of the existing ones. So at a very simplistic level, we have ballistic ones, we have energy ones, and distortion ones. And then within that, you have cannons, repeaters, Gatlings, and we have gaps in those lineups because you also have the size ranges within that. So it's filling those out, giving them different flavors first before we chuck in another archetype.
For me, I mean, obviously, I'm a Star Wars guy and whatever, but my affinity for Star Trek has always made me want beam weapons. We talk about beam weapons. I feel like it comes up every year. And maybe not for you don't want to see a Gladius flying around with a beam out of its nose or whatever. But for these larger ships, like a Hammerhead and above, the ability to have like beams and what it would just be such a cool visual. And that's one of the things
I'm wondering what they mean by beams, because they already have a laser weapon. They already have a plasma weapon. So what do you mean by beams? Like a laser, like light beam, like almost like Star Wars? I was like, pew, pew. I mean, that's what the plasma repeaters kind of do now, but I'm kind of like confused on what they mean by it.
Every once in a while, I just kind of hope. I'm like, is this the year of beam weapons?
I think this is the year of beam weapons.
Oh, you think this is the year of beam weapons?
Yeah.
I faked a reaction there. I was allergic to the year of beam weapons. Can ballistic weapons have quick magazine swaps? Currently, their sustainability is limited to resupply or full weapon replacement. Is this intentional for balancing energy in ballistic weapons?
Yes, that is something we definitely want to do. Chris mentioned this to me again last week before. Going back to the previous topic about filling in the gaps, we're looking at filling in some of those gaps, and some of them are ballistic ones. And as part of the design for them, they do have, or will have, physical magazines that you can reload. So if they're on the outside of, say, your Gladius, maybe Gladius is a bad example, let's go Avenger. When they run out, you will need to go and restock. Well, if you brought spare magazines or ammo housings with you, you can go replace them. A friend could go replace them with their supplies. Not every ship will be like that. It's not, say, practical on a Hammerhead to have
big ass
24 guns ballistic, and someone's going to spend all their time outside the ship, EVAing around in combat trying to plug magazines in. For some ships, they will have essentially an internal reloading mechanism, and that will take the format of, there will be a designated area in the ship which should hopefully be near the cargo supply, and it's similar to how base building will work, in that you'll be taking your resources, in this case boxes of ammo, feeding it into the machine, which will put it into the ship's internal storage, and then the ship itself will resupply to the weapons that need it. So rather than you having to manage 24 individual magazines, someone will just be feeding the crates of ammo in as needed.
My understanding is that that's the only real reason to have children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a good one.
It doesn't change because it's private for the Chinese community. Can the Mobi-Glass ship interface include remote control of doors, elevators, and cargo ramps? So
that'd be nice.
Talking about that for years.
That'd be fucking nice.
Want this to be a thing. Pushing on it internally. Again, it's not directly in my wheelhouse, so it's subject to other teams' schedules and directions. But yes, being able to unlock, lock, open doors from your Mobi-Glass for your ship.
Yeah, it's hard. At the beginning of this year, this is a good time as any to reiterate this. You know, at the beginning of this year, we had Benoit on and talked about the big change in focus of this year. This year's focus for feature teams is on closing Squadron 42 out and improving stability and performance without introducing the stability and hits that come with new features. We don't know how long that's going to last, but we're definitely still in that period right now where we're still refining, we're still fixing up the PU, stuff like this, stuff like that. So it's not an anytime soon kind of thing. Just to put a little expectations management on it. But a lot of these things, we've got this laundry list. There's things that we're all chomping at the bit.
I know that the team that's doing it has a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that players have asked for, like the 3D landing camera on the radar. Like they're doing that before this.
Yeah, but it's always been,
that'd be fucking amazing.
Previous has always been go to the new feature.
Because then you ain't got to go to F4.
Choice to go to stability.
They already have a version of it for the docking. You wouldn't have to press F4 to see what you're doing as a novice. And like right now, I'm getting good enough to where I know the spacing of most of my ships in order to get it into that hangar. But even, seasoned players have to pull that F4 card out to see exactly where they're landing. If I was able to see a geo map of my location, exactly where I'm landing and exactly what's below me on that little holo projector, that be game changer. Like, it's a lot of quality of life things that they're talking about that would make the game a lot better to play. It would be a lot more time saving, more gameplay, less management.
Yeah. To go to performance like this, and that benefit is very apparent already, and there's still more work to do, and there's still more that we're going to continue to do. So while it can sometimes be hard to accept the weight for this thing that everybody wants and whatnot, I still think it's the right decision this year, and I think a lot of folks would probably agree. This focus on stability and performance this year is paramount.
Yes.
And then the eye of development star will turn back to new features for the PU at some point. Can weapon and missile hardpoints carry?
I guess that makes sense. Like, they're trying to make sure that it's actually playable first before they make sure that they have something for them to make money off of. Like, that only makes sense. Make something that's playable and then put some extras into it, like the poop mechanic and all of that shit. Because I'm pretty sure they got a version of all this shit that's available right now to put into the PU. And if they did, it would probably make it an unstable mess. So you got to make what you have already stable and then implement things slowly into it to see what's going to make it unstable and what's not. That way you don't have a jambalaya of unstableness and then have to take the whole thing apart just to rebuild it. Making sense?
Other tools like fuel tanks or electronic pods.
That is something, not those two specific things in particular, but again, not to give too much away, but in the very near future, we're going to start experimenting with some alternative options for what missile racks can carry.
Right. You're of course talking about Invictus launcher.
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll see a couple new items that you can swap out both on the exterior of ships on hardpoints and interior.
Yep.
Okay. Some component upgrades and stuff. So look out for that.
Yeah, it's getting very confusing filming this in advance before flying to be here with everyone in this room wherever I am.
Oh yes. Say something to future you.
Hello, please get a haircut before you go to China.
Yeah, right.
Currently, marine seats on ships feel underutilized. Will they have unique functions in the future?
Like, if you can, you know what would be badass? And I'm not even gonna lie. What would be badass is if they implemented a system like they had in, what's that game? That game that the fucking High on Life, right? If they take that system that they had in High on Life where you can go to planets and recruit NPC Marines or NPC mercs to get into your ship just in case you ain't got a crew, that would be fucking dope. Then it would bring a lot more like large scale battles and big combat scenarios to life. That'd be really nice for high level players, like in-game level players.
Assuming this is drop seats. Yes, they sort of do already, but it's sort of underutilized or unnoticed feature in that we do impart G-forces onto loose actors within ships. So for drop ships, if you have 20 people crammed in the back of a Valkyrie and the pilot does a hard turn, you're all ragdolling and falling over. It doesn't happen really as much as we want or the way we want it. It's very binary at the moment, like big impulse happens, everyone falls over. Whereas the way Chris has talked to me about it is your gravity generator on ships, which is not yet a physicalized item but will be, sort of lags in its compensation of gravity. So rather than it being too much gravity, everyone fall over, it's hard turn, gravity's failing, everything starts getting loose, and if it continues, then people start not necessarily falling over, but almost like EVAing inside the ship because the gravity cannot keep up with the force and the directions. So then, being sat in the seats, you're not having to deal with any of that. But the counter of that is we want to make dropships be more utilized. At the moment,
that makes sense.
You'll
start losing vehicles out the instant into your ship though when that blast door gets blasted open.
Other ships, so we've got to bump that up to get people using them.
Dropships are literally the living manifestation of putting all your eggs in one
Yes,
basket.
they need to survive the drop for people to bother using them. So it's sort of cyclical thing.
The Zeus's design is impressive, especially the interior. Will the Galaxy follow a similar style? Boy, I hope so.
Yes, obviously we talked about at citizencon doing the RSI ships in sort of sequence. So we've done the Polaris, doing the Perseus at the moment, and then the Galaxy will be after. The difference in the Galaxy is it's a civilian ship. It's not the RSI military theme. So the Polaris and Perseus share a lot of visual cues together and materials and lighting. It does take bits from the Zeus, but not everything. And you will see more of the Zeus styling in the Galaxy, and other RSI ships this year will have that Zeus aesthetic rather than the Polaris and Perseus one.
Yeah, I love that. The RSI interior, the Zeus interior. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the Dorito shape, but the interior just knocked me on my butt.
Yeah.
And what I love the Zeus interior. So.
See, I never seen a Zeus, so I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
So, you mentioned the Perseus. I read on Reddit that that's coming in Invictus this year.
It's not.
Okay,
Don't believe everything.
at least they said it's not. I mean, they said it. It came out the horse's mouth. The Perseus is not coming this year.
Will ships like the Caterpillar and Kraken have cargo lift functionality? Loading and unloading on the ground is currently cumbersome.
The
Caterpillar is an interesting.
The Caterpillar is an interesting pain point. So we recently changed the side doors to go down to the ground to sort of improve that. And it sort of improved some things, made other things worse. That's not how we want to do it. I think retrospectively, if we were designing the Caterpillar today, it would not have.
Let's get
doors
back
like
into
that.
it. My bad.
No, knowing what we know today versus what we knew in 2013.
So we're sort of hamstrung by that design. Whether we'll like entirely redo that, I don't know yet. But we do, if it stays in that design, we do still want to have the 3-state doors. The current limitation with the existing door tech, and I saw someone moaning on Reddit about this today. Doors in Star Citizen have 2 states, open or closed. The Caterpillar doors, side doors, are doors, so they are closed or they're open, and it's just where that open state is. So we chose to move it all the way down to the ground to improve things.
Okay.
We can't currently add a 3rd interim state, so open and keep it there.
Yeah.
We do
Like
want to
open
have that
lock.
state, 'cause again, it's a feature. Anyone that's ever worked in games knows how horrendously complicated doors are. It's the big meme.
Doors and elevators.
Doors and elevators. And we can't use elevators or transit because they're essentially using platforms which we could get them to rotate and translate, but you wouldn't be able to have all the synchronized animation for all the pistons on the side. That's why we have to use doors. And that's why we're stuck with 2 states.
Trying to think about how those patch notes would go off. We've added 8 elevators to your Caterpillar.
Yeah.
No! The deadliest ship in the verse.
And then the Kraken, I honestly cannot remember right now how the main entranceway to the cargo bay is. I think it does have a lift on the
I
bottom.
think it just kind of tips on its side.
It just all falls out.
Drops everything.
But we are going to be looking again at the Kraken concept soon, because hopefully towards the end of this year, it will be going into pre-production.
You just gave somebody a heart attack there. Towards the end of this year. Going into production.
Going in pre-production.
Not coming out this year.
Okay.
Read my lips. No new Kraken. Wow, that's a George H.W. Bush reference.
Wow.
That's funny right there. So so it's a lot of stuff they're teasing, but they're not really talking about much more at this point about things that are coming very soon. It's more so like, oh yeah, you guys want that, understand that, but it ain't coming soon.
Mold.
Can the Reclaimer, here's another. Can the Reclaimer's rear cargo platform be adjusted to avoid blocking 8 SCU plus of cargo?
Again, another ship, knowing what we know today, would not exist in its current form. The Reclaimer is an interesting one. I'm aware of that issue. It's something, if I can find someone free to do it, but it's a snowball effect with the Reclaimer. Everything is, the way it was built back in the day is not conducive to quick and easy changes. It's sort of, you change that, you end up having to change a lot of the rear rooms. And this is an interesting quirk we found when we did the Hull C. So obviously the Hull C took forever to come out. We did a lot of the work 2017,
18,
and then we waited years for the features to be ready. And when we came back to it, the way we build ships now is different to then.
Oh yeah.
And the rooms we hadn't done, we did, and the two clashed visually significantly. So we sort of ended up having to downgrade the current art style and slightly up-res the old art style to make it not look so jarring, and the Reclaimer would suffer from the same thing. So in my opinion, if there's something quick and easy we can do, we'll do it. But that whole interior needs a complete, not redo, but reimagining.
Making
Newer
sense.
citizens might not know.
A
Folks who
remaster.
have followed the project for 13 years would definitely be able to tell folks about how process and procedure have changed and evolved over the years. You know, what the way we make anything in 2016 was not the way we were thinking about doing it in 2012. It's not the way that we learned to do it in 2020, and it's not the way that we've come to understand things in 2025. There's a reason we call it game development, not game construction.
Makes sense.
You said the thing, and whatnot. It's so many of these ships. I can't help but notice the Caterpillar, the whole scene and everything. These are old Jim Martin ships who I love. Who was at the very beginning, along with Ryan Church, developing these things before we had things like metrics, before we understood all of our game mechanics and how they would actually function versus how we imagined they would function and stuff like this. So yeah, I think we've started seeing, obviously we've started seeing Mark IIs and stuff with like the Hornets and stuff like this. And I imagine some ships will probably just get a Mark II and whatnot. Other ships like the Reclaimer, the Caterpillar, need some more TLC, need some more, time going back and fixing those things.
Yeah, the question that is starting to prop up more and more is what necessitates or drives the reason for a Mark II versus a just update the existing one. And really that comes down to, we can do a Mark II for something that functions, and we just want to sort of deprecate the visual style of it. The Hornets, for example, there's nothing wrong with the Mark I Hornets. We just wanted to have the cooler Mark II Hornets visually out there. But for things like the Reclaimer, if we made a Mark II Reclaimer, we've still got to make the Mark I Reclaimer actually function how it's supposed to function with the salvage mechanic. At which point, that's redoing a lot of it. So there won't be like a Mark II Reclaimer the amount of work will just be an updated Reclaimer.
Makes sense.
Just a couple more questions, and we'll wrap up here. Modules are often expensive optional additions. Will modules for ships like the Galaxy be available for in-game currency upon release, so players aren't stuck with half-functional ships?
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
The modules, it's an interesting one. Part of it's an economy reason, part of it's a marketing reason, and part of it is
It's pledge law and stuff like this.
Meaning that they're going to be putting it on the pledge store. The modules are going to be put on the pledge store, just like the flight blades. But as long as they make it earnable in game, it's not going to be the biggest deal. But if it's only on the pledge store, like they're doing the flight blades right now, then I can see people putting their panties in a bunch. Like it's just like, release Squadron 42, make this game stable. Let's answer questions about these, and then boom.
The Retaliator is really the only one that we've released with modules, and it sort of had an awkward. There was two ways to get a Retaliator over time. There was the original pledge, which it was a bomber. It wasn't modular.
Yeah.
And then there's the modular version. When that was announced, you couldn't get the bomber one anymore. So people were pledging for the base one with no modules. And then you opted into the modules after that. So when we came to deliver it, we had to deliver both of them. So there was a lot of people that had the bomber one as like a loaner ship for their one without it, and were surprised that they didn't have anything. And the current rules set it's the same as any new ship, that it will be available in game
after time.
X amount of time from its actual release. So
I know the amount of time right now. I just can't remember it specifically. I don't want to say the wrong thing right now, but it comes down to when there's, again, I'm not going to get into it, but there's general marketing stuff, and then there's actually some laws and crowdfunding and pledge that you have to deliver the thing to those people who paid money before you can give it to stuff like that and whatever. So I don't have to worry about that stuff, which is why I don't have the information.
Okay, so that's why they're doing like blades and modules and stuff like that before on the pledge store before they give it to people in game, because then it's something that they have to give to people that pledge before you can get it in game, because it's still a pledgeable type of item and not purchasable. That makes sense.
And I don't know if it's the case right now, but the Retaliator modules, maybe they're not in the in-game shops. Maybe there might be a technical reason why they're not in there at the moment. I genuinely don't know,
we'll look into that
but we can look into it.
Because some of those have been around for long enough now.
Those should have passed the date requirements.
Can ship hull damage and breakage effects, as seen in Squadron 42, that's Maelstrom, be implemented in the PU?
That'd be nice.
That is the plan.
That'd be very nice.
Maelstrom
visually
is
nice.
Full speed ahead in Squadron.
The explosion is very nice. But the breakage, I mean, they kind of have an implementation of it now, but not the level that we've seen in Squadron 42. Not that level of polish.
My team and a lot of other teams are working on it currently. I think they are about, at the time of recording, about, I'm going to say 70% of the way through converting
that's more than I would have expected.
The ships required for Squadron
okay.
to Maelstrom. So it's been built in a way that facilitates, we take the existing damage model that's in Star Citizen, press a few buttons, that's the Maelstrom version. It visually behaves the same, but it's using all the physical behaviors under the hood of it. That's converted to Maelstrom. That's the 70% quote. After that, Tech Art and Art can go in and chop it up more if they wish.
Make it better,
make
more
it
dynamic.
better, shinier, break into more parts, make it more believable. And that's been done on a case-by-case basis. So we're doing all the hero ships.
I got you. So they made Squadron 42 feel like an action game. Something that's like easily obtainable by like a general crowd type thing. And that makes sense. And when it comes down to the actual Star Citizen version, it has to be, not to use it in layman terms, pretty much Squadron 42 is going to be a very, very, very dumbed down version of Star Citizen. And the Star Citizen is going to be the good version, like where you get the advanced mechanics and the advanced shit that you want for a space game like this.
All the ships you fly and fight the most are getting that first. So the actual like fully maelstromed conversion is a lot lower percentage, but overall we're quite a long way through it. Yeah. There's a lot of ships used in Squadron, but a lot of them are only used once, so they're just going to get the PU damage model ported to Maelstrom, done.
I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes. It was just a week or two ago when I messaged.
Oh, big news, big news.
About something, whatever. And Jesse looked at me, he's like, I'm in Maelstrom hell, can I get to it later? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's a whole new way of thinking about setup. Again, like you said just before, things we did years ago, in case of Maelstrom, things we did weeks ago is not how we need to do things going forwards.
Yeah. But it's definitely underway in progress.
Yeah, and it all does genuinely work. And
that's good.
Behaves physically correctly, and you see the visual result. Like all those ships in the citizencon Squadron gameplay video, those were all Maelstrom, and they break up differently to how things do in the PU now.
How is weight calculated, and what are its effects, such as ship overloading? We were just talking about that in...
Yeah, it's all related. There's two answers to this. Both are the correct answer, but it depends what project you're working on. So obviously in Squadron it's Maelstrom, and that does a lot of the work for you. So depending on the material you apply to the ship.
And Maelstrom's probably the program they're using to get it done.
Parts of the ship, like you could have left wing be one material, right wing be another. You set the thickness of it. It calculates the surface area of that part based on the physics mesh of it. Does some clever maths for the thickness value provided, and then that part is that weight. So you apply a titanium wing, it's lighter than a steel wing.
Makes sense.
And it all just goes into the physics engine and just works TM. Star Citizen is different because we don't have Maelstrom, and that it's more designery numbered. And the process we've done for years is you take a rough volume of the ship, and 3ds Max calculates the volume of it, and we put it into an Excel that I made years ago. And that you take that volume, you take away the volume of the interior space, which is another mesh. That gives you a volume of the hull. You multiply that by a density value we decided, which has some plus and minus, very like plus 5% for Aegis because it's a combat manufacturer versus Origin, which is all high tech and carbon fibery, plasticky.
Makes sense.
That gives you a mass for the entire ship, and you put that on the entire ship, and then the game engine goes, about 50% of the volume of this ship is this part, so I'm going to put 50% of that mass here. And that's why occasionally you see things behave oddly because the physics is misinterpreted. Maybe the asset has a slightly dodgy physics proxy and it thinks it's got 5% of the mass when it should have 50% of the mass, and it flies off into space, or the reverse. So again, that's the reason for having Maelstrom, is that those designer numbers go away to be created with ones that are actually fully derived from the assets themselves.
Makes sense.
And it does impact flight. In both games. In Star Citizen, if you strip weapons and components off your ship, you will fly slightly faster. The ships are quite heavy, so removing a 100-kilo gun off your 60-ton spaceship isn't going to move the needle
too much.
But it does.
It affects
and cargo will impact it. It doesn't currently for any ship where the cargo grid is inside, because we're intentionally ignoring that at the moment. But for ships like the Hull C, Hull A, the Raft now, everyone's new favourite ship, if it's on the outside of a ship, it does account for that. So you will feel like if you've loaded your Raft up with gold, it's going to fly a lot slower and heavier than one that is empty.
Makes sense.
Well, when Maelstrom fully comes online, all these calculations are more accurate and reliable and stuff like this. I've always thought it would be cool that, you know, we got these folks like Atmo and like XGR and stuff that do the races of like to do a cargo race. Like you have to load up 200 tons of cargo, whatever. However you want to do it. You want to do it on the exterior, like whatever. But there has to be that much cargo in the ship and whatever, just to kind of affect the handling. What I'm watching, and you have to kit out your ship and swap out your components as necessary, to help with it and stuff like this. And
Chop bits off your ship to reduce the weight.
Like maybe you clip a bit of your ship intentionally so that breaks off. It's like, I don't need that. To go, and you pick up a little more speed and stuff like that. It's I'm always more interested in like the cannonball run style, anything you can do to turn a race on its head and make it more.
I gotta try a race out. I haven't done any races.
Two more questions. I want to ask one. This actually isn't on the list. I'm going to add one.
Here we go.
Okay. Surprise question.
I think it was yesterday. In the PTU, folks saw some handling changes.
Yes.
I like them. I like the handling changes so far.
At that point,
especially
it's
on the fighters,
the Polaris and whatnot. Whether it goes to the 890 jump, so that's I don't know the answer to that yet. But these handling changes, the Polaris has been. The Polaris has sort of been everywhere and everyone's enemy for a little bit. It's like we see the posts where people are like, oh, this would have been great if I didn't have to encounter a Polaris right there, because they're just too damn fast. They're too damn fast. They're too damn zippy.
Not anymore.
And not anymore. So talk to me about this change that we're making.
Yeah. So out of the box, the Polaris was too fast and too agile. We were a bit concerned about making it too slow as like the first proper military capital ship in the game, but we played it safe too far on the agility side now, and hopefully now what is live at the time people are watching this is a much slower. It's still, the Polaris in lore was a fast capital ship. It's supposed to be fast and agile, but that's relative
to other capital ships.
Other capitals. So
not to a Gladius.
Yeah, you're not going to be dogfighting Hornets in your Polaris. So we did slow it down pretty much in all aspects in terms of speed, boost, rotational rates.
Made it more practical for the job.
And done the same across the other capital ships. So technically the only other capital ship is the 890. And the Reclaimer's is sort of weird. It wasn't a capital ship, but it now has capital items. But we've gone back and looked at them all and made sure they were all.
It's also affecting.
See, I want an 890 jump.
NPC Idrises.
When people steal an Idris, now they're going to notice that it handles differently.
The same whenever an NPC Javelin turns up. They are all slower. They're not designed to be good in atmosphere. So hopefully all the sights of Polaris's nose down over mining craters should start disappearing, because bringing a capital ship into atmosphere needs to be a big event. This is a big commitment. You should be a sitting duck. Some of them can't even get back out of atmosphere unless they have dedicated VTOLs.
God damn.
We just don't want to see these big ships everywhere. They should be big events when you come across them, not 10 a penny everywhere.
There's a line, if I remember, in the squadron script from the pilot of I can't remember if it's the Javelin or the Idris, where they're like, a fighter is supposed to be a reactive, and a capital ship you're supposed to plan. You're supposed to plan every maneuver, 3 steps ahead, and that's been in the squadron script since like 2015 when I was recorded. So I'm personally excited. I'm personally excited to see these things behave more like these giant fucking. Almost used my.
Get the beep. Live beep.
Hey, if you're translating it, when you're translating this, make it not a bad.
At least
word.
you know he's a real person.
I'm excited to see them more lumbering and more imposing and more and more like a whale, like a whale in space, as opposed to.
I think there's other levers we're going to start pulling as well on them in terms of like fuel and insurance timers, because they are big events. Like if you're bringing one out, sure you can use it as your daily driver, there will be
I wouldn't-
downsides and consequences to that.
I wouldn't.
if you don't.
I would use
protect
it as like
And of
something
course,
that I leave in the
you know,
middle of
this-
space
this
and
is the-
just jump
this
to
is
it.
not the first set of changes. This won't be
Yeah.
the last set of changes. These are just the next set of changes. The beautiful thing about Star Citizen and running a live environment in the middle of our development is that we get to try a thing and then let it go for a month and try a thing and let it go for a month and stuff like this. With this new release cadence this year, we've already done 4 patches this year. We're about to do our 5th one by the time folks watch this, which is insane. We're not even halfway through the year yet. You know, there'll be a lot more opportunities to try something.
Oh, I fucked up.
To capital ships.
Yeah.
I think at that point it's only rolled out for the Polaris and whatnot.
Yeah.
Whether it goes to the 890 jump,
Yeah.
so that's I don't know the answer to that yet. But these handling changes,
The same whenever an NPC Javelin
Right.
turns up. Done the same across the other capital ships. So technically the only other capital ship.
people steal an Idris. It's also affecting the NPC Idrises.
NPC Idrises, yeah.
When people steal an Idris,
Yeah.
now they're going to notice that it handles differently.
The same whenever an NPC Javelin
Right.
turns up. They are all slower. They're not designed to be good in atmosphere. So hopefully all the sights of Polaris's nose down over mining craters should
Yeah.
start disappearing, because
Got you.
bringing a capital ship into atmosphere needs to be a big event. Like, this is a big commitment. You should be a sitting duck. Some of them can't even get back out of atmosphere unless they have dedicated VTOLs.
Maneuver, 3 steps ahead. Hey, if you're translating it, when you're translating this,
Start pulling as well on them in terms of like fuel and insurance timers, because
Good.
they are big events. Like, if you're bringing one out, sure, you can use it as your daily driver. There will be downsides and consequences to that if you don't protect it.
and of course, this is not the first set of changes. This won't be
Yeah.
the last set of changes. These are just the next set of changes. The beautiful thing about Star Citizen and running a live environment in the middle of our development is that we get to try a thing and then let it go for a month and try a thing and let it go for a month and stuff like this. With this new release cadence this year, we've already done 4 patches this year. We're about to do our 5th one by the time folks watch this, which is insane. We're not even halfway through the year yet. There'll be a lot more opportunities to try something, tweak it, try something, tweak it, try something.
We have a lot of ships in the game. There's still a fair amount to come.
Yeah.
So it's always a delicate balancing act between balancing for the game we have now
And the game that
and
we
the game
know.
we have in the future.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go a bit too close one way or the other. So you'll see things like, oh, this isn't that better than the others.
Yeah.
Makes
and then we
sense.
have to do a realignment to spread out the range. Like, we did a pass recently on the heavy fighters to sort of. This is all the F8 owners complaining about it, but to make space for there to be a slow, heavy, tanky one
Yeah.
and a fast one relative for a heavy fighter.
See, I like
and
the
gaps in
medium
there to
fighters.
swap
The
other
medium
options.
fighters are perfectly balanced this
That's what I call
patch,
it.
and I love it.
And that range is going to grow and contract as more ships get added in the game.
Yeah. I feel like Zoomy Polaris was us being just as excited to get it out as as players were, and let folks have fun with it in the But I feel like this change was always there.
Yeah,
it was always on the
It was
horizon.
always coming.
So.
It was just a case of when we did it.
And as new flight characteristics, I know what the one starts with J. I keep wanting to say Juke. It's not Juke.
Jerk.
Jerk.
Yeah.
Yes. As Jerk comes online, so like this, that'll change how these things
Jerk and control surfaces will change the landscape again for flight.
So it just I want to caution people against doom and gloom. When you see these changes come out 1 month, remember there's still work being done. Jerk and control services, and the new almost monthly cadence of releases this entire year means that we get opportunities to try something and try something.
Okay, so it's going to be a new patch every month. That's going to be good.
Last question before I'll let you go here. We've got a lot of good information. This episode is obviously going to the members of our Chinese community, to those big events that I've never been invited to. Tyler, I want to go.
He'll be standing right next to me. Come find me, and that'll be Tyler.
We're gonna release this to the public sometime during Invictus and whatnot, because it's everybody deserves to have the information. We're giving these questions came from the Chinese community. And we're gonna give them their first shot at seeing them and stuff like that. It was a nice little thing we can do. I want to ask you about the ships that are coming this year. Well, we've got a lot of good information here. I want something that folks aren't expecting. Can you tell me, just name for me, one ship that's coming this year that folks might not know about?
Big
So
news.
for the RSI Meteor.
The RSI Meteor.
What is that?
What is?
What is it?
Yeah, I'm just.
Show it punches above its weight. Get another drinking.
RSI Meteor just drops a Macho Man elbow from the top rope down. All right, cool. The RSI Meteor.
Yeah.
So look forward to that at some point later this year, and I want to see the Reddit thread where people are wondering I want to see what they can evoke from the name and manufacturer alone, and see who's right. So yeah, thank you for watching, everybody. This has been Star Citizen Not So Live with John Crew. And of course, if you're watching it a little bit later during Invictus, we hope you found the show informative and delightful, as John Crew always is. You want to go spend some time with your puppet? You haven't visited your puppet.
Alrighty. So there you have it. We heard some new information. Some of it was pertinent, certain of it was not. Some of it was a waste of time. But that was my first ever one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you guys on the next one, because I do have to go to work tomorrow.